Hi everyone, Dr. Nutt here. Hope you're having a great day. Today we're going to talk about development. Specifically, I would like to cover Eric Erickson's psychosocial stages of development. So here we go. Now, as we talk about development, I'm real curious. What do you guys believe to be the ideal age? Oftentimes in class, in a face-to-face class, I hear things like, I think, 21 is an ideal age to be. Sometimes people say, 4 years of age, or 18, or 25, or, I hear all kinds of numbers about the ideal age. But on the flip side, what do you think is the worst age? You know, do you think it could be 50 or, you know, um, 43? It's so fun to hear your ideas about, what's the worst age. But hopefully, I've sparked your thinking about our discussion today. Um, Eric Erickson came up with these 8 stages of development that really go from birth and infancy all the way to old adulthood. And Eric Erickson was not his original given last name. Actually, his last name was Eric Hamburger. I know it sounds like hamburger, but it's Hamburger. And really, what happened was he did not know the identity of his birth father. So his pediatrician married his biological mother and then gave him the name Hamburger. And so his heritage, or his birth father, really was a mystery for him. And you know, what was one of his greatest concerns throughout his life was identity, And so, in 1927, as a young adult, he was actually traveling around Europe, and he basically crossed paths with Anna Freud. Anna Freud carried on the psychoanalytic history and actually used psychoanalysis with children. And so that really led to Eric Erickson's analysis with Anna Freud, and then later led to his training at the Vienna Psychoanalytic Institute and in 1933. Well, shortly after, he immigrated to the United States, where, because of his valuable training, that led to his hiring at Harvard, and he was a human development professor at Harvard. And he actually didn't have any earned degrees after his high school diploma. So, what, in essence, uh, the kind of contribution that Eric Erickson has made to human development and the understanding of development was his expansion of Sigmund Freud's psychosexual stages into how a person, their ego gains strength through the psychosocial stages of development. And so, instead of, like Sigmund Freud, that focus on sexuality and sexual development, Erickson's focus was on how a child or a person's social environment really contributes to how their sense of self develops, and then through these 8 stages. So Erickson's 8 stages of psychosocial dilemmas really kind of center around some type of dilemma. throughout life. At each stage, we go through a particular kind of crises, as some call it. But again, it's a dilemma. You have a conflict, and you have these personal impulses, and then you have the social world. And then how are you going to resolve that dilemma? So we're going to look at each one of these dilemmas, how a person thinks about that, and then what they're to do about that. Stage one is trust versus mistrust. You take an infant, a child born into this world, and they're completely dependent upon their caregivers and the world around them. So you see the little happy baby. Now, if that baby, you know, establishes trust in the world around them, they do so when the baby is provided warmth, touch, love, and physical care. Now, if that baby does not develop trust, and we call that mistrust, that's really caused by inadequate or unpredictable care. Either that caregiver was cold or indifferent or rejecting to that child. Now, moving on to the next stage. How many of you have heard about the terrible twos? What is so terrible about 2-year-olds? Well, as some of you know, they like to do their own thing, right? Well, terrible twos. That leads us to stage 2, which is called autonomy versus shame and doubt. Autonomy, a sense of self, again, individuality, I'm separate from you, versus shame and doubt. Because a 2-year-old, they like to do things on their own, right? They like to dress themselves. They like to, of course, feed themselves. Well, those of you that wait tables or you have children, small children make mess, right? So, but they're doing things for themselves. Versus if while they're doing things for themselves, that parent becomes overprotective or ridiculing, that can develop doubt in that child's abilities and shame about their actions. Stage 3. Stage 3, you need to think of about a preschooler. Okay. In stage 3, this is called initiative versus guilt. And I asked you to get a preschooler in your mind because this is ages 3 to 5. And this is when a child likes to play. They're asking you a ton of questions like why, what for, why we got to do that. And again, that is an indicator of that child's initiative. Now, parents that reinforce that, giving children freedom to play, use their imagination, ask those questions, they will have a sense of initiative. But on the flip side, if during that conflict or that psychosocial dilemma, that parent maybe over criticizes or actually prevents a child from playing or discourages the questions, they will develop guilt. Okay. Stage 4 is industry versus inferiority. Now, up until this point, whose opinion is really important? It's the caregiver's opinion. Maybe that's the parents or maybe grandparents, whoever's taking care of the child. But now, at this stage 4, industry versus inferiority, this is ages typically 6 to 12. What happens during those years? Well, you guys know, or you remember, you went to school. So all of a sudden, the teacher's opinion is important to you, or your peers, your schoolmates, your classmates. So during this time, the child is really creating, they're learning, they're, learning how to read, learning how to do math, learning how to help. This occurs when a child is praised for productive, keyword there, activities. Okay. Now, again, some of you may remember something a teacher might have said to you. I hope it's a good thing. Well, some of you may remember like negative things. And now, if on the flip side, the child's efforts are regarded as messy or inadequate, we see the development of inferiority. Stage 5 it would be adolescence. Let me see if I can just move. I can't move my camera. So we'll keep going. Stage 5 is adolescence, and this is typically ages 12, preteen, teen, 13, all the way up to 18 and 19. And this is when a person is really trying to establish identity. You have a sense of identity when you can answer the question, who am I and where am I going? Now, role confusion occurs when an adolescent is unsure of how to identify themselves. They're not sure. They're trying to figure it out. The beautiful thing about adolescence is you have this designated space to figure this out. You can try on different things, see if you like it, see if you don't like it. I certainly remember during adolescence trying out certain groups to belong to, and I'm like, no, I don't fit there. So, but again, there's the beautiful thing of having that time and opportunity to explore. Stage 6 is young adulthood. Many of you know, friendships and relationships are so important at this age. And a young adult has a sense of intimacy if they can share their experiences with someone, whether that be a significant other or close friends. Now, a young adult could feel isolated if they feel alone or uncared for in life. Okay. And again, an age span for young adulthood is typically that 18, 20, all the way up to, say, 35, 40 years of age. Now, middle adulthood would be considered, say, 40 to 65. And this is called generativity versus stagnation. At this age, this is when maybe a middle-aged adult may be caring for their family. They may be contributing to the next generation, and that's referred to as generativity, okay? Helping the next generation. Now, on the flip side, if a middle-aged adult is only concerned with their own needs and their own comforts, that is considered stagnation. The last stage we'll talk about really concerns your bucket list. The last stage is stage 8, and this is late adulthood, and this is integrity versus despair. Because at the end of life, a person in late adulthood will do a life review. They'll look back over their life and they'll decide, hey, how did I do? If they have a sense of integrity, that means they have a sense of self-respect and they lived richly and responsibly. They lived the best life they could. They could end in despair, and that maybe they end life with a lot of regret, heartache, or remorse. This concludes our discussion about development. Thanks for watching.